As we see the LME price of copper continue to knock on the door of 10,000, we've got for a second day now in the space of a week where we have attempted to but failed to consolidate above the 10,000 level. John Mayer joins us now from SP Angel. John, good morning to you. We've spoken about this before, and I know we've referenced it in previous emails and interviews where you've quoted this 10,000 as a target price. We're now there. We haven't yet seen a candle close as of speaking on that on a daily basis. But I know that we've got some banks now looking at even higher prices still. What are your thoughts on copper at 10,000 and where we go from here?
Well, copper's had to break its way through quite a number of barriers to get to 10,000. There have been challenges by Chinese officials suggesting that they might intervene and limit prices. We don't think that's going to happen. There have been people talking about SRB, State Reserve Bureau, stockpiles perhaps coming out, about problems with the global economy. Of course, we know there are still many issues in the global economy right now. Some are good, some are not so good. So copper continues to claw its way up the price ladder. We've broken through $10,000 a ton twice now. Rather more convincingly this time. I'm sure there will still be more barriers. We think we're likely to claw our way up to 10,600, maybe 10,800 over the next few months. And I think it's going to be a bit of a game of snakes and ladders, but I think at the end of the day, copper prices are still going up. There's still some momentum in there. There's still strong demand coming through, particularly from the US, where Biden infrastructure stimulus is putting money into wind farms, solar farms, fixing up the grid system, all things that require copper, to be perfectly frank. And that's good. I mean, we're not even talking about the conversion into electric vehicles from combustion engine vehicles. And an electric vehicle needs about almost 4 times as much copper as a traditional combustion engine vehicle. So there's a lot more happening underneath, and there might be a little bit of substitution here and there, maybe a bit of aluminium used in air conditioners, that sort of thing. But as we know, aluminium is a poor substitute for copper in many, many areas.
Yeah, so just remind ourselves, of course, that price you were talking about there, that the record high back in 2011 in the commodity boom was 10,190. So the sort of figures you're talking about there, and of course also Bank of America in the last few days talking about a possible spike to 13,000 this year. Goldman Sachs, I know, has got that price target of 15,000 by 2025. Now, these are very lofty levels. The problem is with all this, of course, is not just the fact that copper's going up. You mentioned aluminium. We've seen recent highs on that recently. We've got an upward impetus again, once again, on nickel. All this is going to feed through, isn't it, to inflation within the global economy. And that could do all sorts of nasty things at the other end unless the central banks get their positions into gear.
We think there's a lot of inflation in the global economy anyway, and a lot that hasn't been included in the official inflation statistics over the years. I always think of the two of the components within our own inflation statistics, car dishes and colour TVs, where prices have been falling for many, many years, but for fairly obvious reasons. But in reality, people are spending more money on more things, and there is more inflation in the system, in our view, than is being shown by the statistics. And the fact is that there's more copper being used than ever before, and the copper price, the peak of the copper price now is not even where we were 12 years ago. So there's still more to come. If one was inflating on a normal compound basis, yes, we would be looking at $15,000, $16,000 a ton quite easily.
One other thing, John, very quickly, I know we've only got a short amount of time. I just wanted to reference what's happened, the tragedy that's happened in Mexico with this metro bridge collapse. What should we know from a mining point of view or from a metals point of view about where we go with this? You talked about the Joe Biden emphasis on infrastructure spending. We know that China is putting a lot of money into infrastructure spending. But we see here, this metro bridge, I don't believe, was very old. And here we are now with a collapse on our hands with the attendant tragedy that goes with it. What should we be looking at specifically for these sort of structures and get an idea as to how perhaps maybe we can lever this into an opportunity in the mining sector?
We're in an environment where governments need to fix things, and the voters are going to vote to spend the money to fix things. And quite clearly in Mexico, there is a need to fix up some of the relatively modern infrastructure that has just failed catastrophically. And you, as a voter, you're not going to vote for someone who doesn't want to repair these sorts of things. And okay, we were thinking that Joe Biden in America would pay to fix up a lot of very old infrastructure in the States, which is obviously in need of fixing up and replacement. And now we see in Mexico that relatively new infrastructure is failing. Now, one of the issues here is probably that there's not enough vanadium in the steel. If you create hardened steel using quenching and tempering, which is where you drop hot steel into cold water, it's harder, but it's brittle, and that's not good. So they need to add more vanadium content to these sorts of steels. They need to check the quality of the steel that went into that overhead system, that sort of bridge. And they need to add further support. And it's going to be a lot of support that they have to add, because I suspect they're going to have to fix every part of that metro network, the overhead rail system there. And they're not just going to have to do this in Mexico. They need to do this elsewhere in the world. If we look at other infrastructure failures, there was the bridge in Italy, although that was more to do with foundations. If we go back about 20 years, the big earthquake in China that caused about 90,000 fatalities, 5,300 fatalities of children, mainly in schools, that collapsed because the quality of the steel in the rebar, in the reinforcing the concrete, failed. So there's so much that really does need to be fixed. And if we look at the UK, I mean, we have our own issues with cladding on tower blocks, which clearly needs to be sorted out. At least we haven't had any bridge collapses just yet, but you can be sure there's more to come.
Yeah, let's hope lessons are learned. Look, John, thanks indeed for joining us. John Mayer joining us there from SP Angel in London. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGCom and subscribe to our YouTube channel.